This is Betty. I'm the witch from the north.
And I'm Lancel, the island witch. And you're listening to Rosemary by the Bucketful.
Welcome back to another episode of Rosemary by the Bucketful. Thank you so much for being here today. We are going to be talking about quote unquote bad cards in tarot.
So are there bad cards in the tarot? What's your opinion on this?
To me, I would say there are not necessarily bad cards. That no card is inherently good or bad. I think it's circumstantial and the interpretation of that card matters.
Also, I think when we talk about the idea of a bad card, I think the idea of fatalism comes in mind, that this has all been like pre-written by some god, that it's gonna be fate, that you're gonna be like drinking like a Starbucks Frappuccino at 4:12 p.m. No, it's definitely not. Tarot isn't gonna tell you that, because it isn't fixed. I know, like, I'm gonna be like really debatey, and this is a very opinionated topic, because some people do believe in fate, but I don't subscribe to that idea. Also, the thing is that being prepared for a storm is so much better than trying to heal the disaster of being unprepared. So if you get the tower, you're gonna be prepared to deal with shit.
No, I 100% agree. I am not of the belief that our life is already predetermined or set in stone. I think the choices that we make currently affect the future. I think there are many possibilities to the future, and the choices that you make in the present day will alter the course of that. And for me, tarot is not a source of a definitive yes or no answer. It's more a source of reflection and guidance from my intuition. So I think maybe we can talk about some of the cards that are deemed as bad cards and our perspective or point of view on those cards. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. I actually got this card today, the day of recording, and it's the Tower. And I think there's like a really big stigma about the Tower, especially on social media, that, oh, I got the Tower, everything's gonna fall and crumble. Like, I think that partially is true, but it's not really fixed. So what the Tower signifies is, so I take the intuitive approach and base my reading on the imagery. I know some people take the Kabbalistic approach. I'm trying to explore that, but I would say I'm still too beginnery to really take that approach. So let's dissect the imagery. So we have a tower. So it's strong and solid stone. So I imagine a system where you can't really push that system away. So something in the past or present, which you can't really move away from. So we also have fire, which is destroying the tower, the failing of that system. And we also have a crown falling off, which is also failure of a system. I think the first thing that we think of is patriarchy, but it depends on the situation at hand. It also prepares us that garbage fire is gonna break loose, and that might be something which is actually good for the person. So I'm gonna bring a real example. Let's say you're being attacked by really negative people and you get the Tower card for that day. You're obviously, so what the Tower says is get rid of that garbage and move on. So the Tower card might mean that there's failure, destruction in one area of your life, but at the end of the day, it might be more positive.
I like that example that you gave. For me, the Tower signifies upheaval, crisis, or chaos, but it also can signify transformation, as Lancel said. So, again, going back to my point earlier, I think your reading of this card is circumstantial. So it's based on the questions that you're asking and looking to get answers for, and what's currently going on in your life. And I did a post on this on my IG, so if you're interested in looking at that, you can definitely go and do that. Shameless plug. But like the Tower card could mean that there's some chaos or destruction that's going to be happening, or transformation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. As Lancel said, it could be that, old patterns or limiting beliefs that you've carried with you throughout your life that, no longer serve you are ready to be cleared out and need to be cleared out. Otherwise, you could face some chaos or negative impacts if you don't change those. So this is like a way for you to recognize those patterns and to take that warning and to change what's necessary to be changed in order to move forward and not have those negative impacts.
Also, when I talk about imagery, I didn't really preface this, but I'm pulling specifically from the Rider-Waite Tarot. So all my interpretations are going to be from that specific deck. I know that the Wild Unknown deck doesn't have some of the imagery in the Rider-Waite Smith Tarot. I know that it doesn't have the Yod. So what Yod is it's a Hebrew letter that signifies new beginnings. So there might be a destruction or ending of one system or situation, but there's at the end of the day going to be a new beginning of something else that might be better or it might be worse. It depends.
Yeah, for example, let's say you are in a relationship, and this relationship, although it's been going on for a while, may not be the healthiest relationship for you to be in. And this tower signifies the ending of that relationship. And although it is painful, it is necessary for you to grow, to move on, and to let that part of you go in order for you to become who you're meant to be, or to reach a goal or a place in your life that you're supposed to be going toward, and you wouldn't have been able to achieve that had you stayed in that relationship. So that's an example of where the Tower card, although it may be painful, reflects something good.
Okay, I think we can move on from the Tower now. Okay, so another big card, Death. Am I gonna die for pulling out a piece of cardboard?
Right. So Death, a lot of people fear the Death card and the Devil card. And Death specifically because a lot of people fear death. They look at it as a negative thing. And although the Death card can indeed indicate mortality, that's generally not the case. And again, it's going to be dependent on where it is in the spread if you pull more than one card and how the other cards influence it. But generally, death to me just means, again, letting go of the old and making way for the new.
Yes, I totally agree. If you're reading the imagery specifically, so it's a skeletal riding on horse. But there's also two towers in the background which signify they're on the right, so they signify the future for me. So there might be a new, stronger system. There's also the beginning of a new dawn. So something new might begin. Death of one thing, but the beginning of like a new page. Also, the rider has a flag with a rose. If you have these, I think it's the specific original deck. It has the rose at the back. Some decks have the like plaid, I don't know how to pronounce it, like plated blue back. The original deck had the rose in the death card at the back. So what it symbolizes is life. So it doesn't really mean that you're gonna die. Life is gonna go on through hardships, and there's gonna be a new dawning at the end of the day.
Right, and I think one of the reasons why this is a card that people are hesitant to pull is because endings are difficult. As I said with the Tower, nobody wants, especially if you're not mentally prepared for it, nobody wants something to end, whether that be a relationship, a job, a goal, whatever the case may be. Endings are difficult, and so I think that's one of the hesitations when you're pulling the card, is having to deal with everything that comes with that ending.
That's why Tarot isn't fortune telling, but it helps us through our life and to some extent our future. So being mentally prepared, being financially prepared in some cases. I know that the Tower sometimes signifies that in a financial situation that you should start saving up some money to be prepared for chaos or like losing your job.
Right. So if you were to pull the death card in relation to my previous example with a relationship, you could take the death card as a way to kind of reflect on the relationship and why the ending of this relationship is so difficult. And just looking inward, for me personally, this is how I do it. And that reflection will help you discover maybe things that you didn't realize as to why you were afraid of this relationship ending and help you heal some of those things. So that's kind of where I come from with my approach to reading tarot.
Yeah, I take that approach too. So, I think we can move on.
I think another prominent one, I don't know what you want to discuss, but I wrote six down. We talked about the tower and death. I mentioned the devil at one point. I think that's a common one that people also view as bad. But some of the other common ones are not as common or as obvious to some people would be like the Three of Swords, for example. Okay, so the devil is another card that is looked at in through like a negative lens. When someone pulls it, they think of inherently like evil or yeah, like a bad situation, influences from outside. It could also mean parts of your shadow because for me, well, that's what it means for me personally. That's what it means in regards to a lot of the see our shadow is parts of ourselves that are repressed, and the devil represents those repressed parts of ourselves. In that these are things that society has pushed away or told you that is not acceptable, and I think that the devil is a symbol of that, of everything that society has deemed unacceptable.
I take that approach when the card is reversed. For me, it enslavement mostly to oneself actually. What you can see is that the chains aren't like held tightly, so they're loose and you can freely run away from that situation or end that situation. No one's really controlling you. It's yourself that's either in a bad job or in a bad habit.
Yeah, I think it can also mean things like things are starting to bubble below the surface. I feel like so again, going back to those repressed emotions or ideals that you are holding that are kind of right below the surface that maybe you need to take a look at and heal and deal with before you can move on. And I think that that's represented in the devil card. And I think that's one of the reasons why people may not be as happy to pull it, because it's hard for you to look at yourself and reflect and say, okay, what is it that I need to work on or heal in order to go forward? Because it's not always the easiest thing, and it's not always fun or happy and light. You know what I mean? Like that's heavy stuff.
Yeah, obviously some situations aren't really easy, but at the end of the day it might be for the better.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it could be for the greater good. So in that way, again, it's more circumstantial in that, like, if you deal with these things, then you're going to grow and become a better version of yourself. But if you don't deal with these things, you're going to be stuck and stagnant and still going around in that same cycle and not able to break free. So as you said, enslavement, if you don't deal with these things. So the Three of Swords is generally looked at as the most negative card in the minor arcana. It's kind of depicts like sorrow, depression, heartache, and grief. Generally, you'll see for imagery like the heart pierced with three separate swords. And it can also mean difficulty in communication between relationships. Sometimes it can represent infidelity, which is obviously a difficult thing to deal with.
The thing about Three of Swords, I find it interesting that a lot of beginners tend to think that you're gonna like break up. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It could be that there's loss of communication.
Right, I know, I agree. And I think when this card comes up, looking at how you are communicating in your life with other people, and if there is holes within your communication, or if the communication could be better, I think this points to that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you need to be more aware of how you're communicating. And maybe you need to change or adapt the way you're communicating to meet someone halfway.
I think also an interesting topic about bad cards, quote unquote, is that reversed meanings don't necessarily mean the opposite. I think it's a big thing on social media to say, like, oh no, I got the lovers in reversed. But it could also mean self love. It doesn't necessarily mean disharmony. It being reversed doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad card.
Yeah, no, I agree. Me personally, at this point in time, I don't generally read reverse cards. I know that that can be controversial, but that's just me and my personal practice. But I have heard that, and I have had others read for me who read the reverse cards, and it is the general consensus is that it's a negative thing. But as you said, it's not necessarily negative, it's just a different perspective. And for instance, what happens if you pull the tower reversed?
Yeah, it's like, it's obviously gonna depend on the situation and the reader, of course, and also the spread and the question. Because, like, let's take the lovers, for example. You might take it in a certain situation as disharmony, but in another, you might use it as self love. I know that I'm doing like a Venus working where I use the lovers in reverse, which is generally like romantic love between two people. You can totally reverse that and use it as self love.
Absolutely, yeah. I like that example that you gave, and I think that that's a great way to look at it as well. But again, I think with reverse cards, it just comes down to, as we said before, how it's being read in the spread, if you're doing a spread, and what surrounds it. So those are things to keep in consideration when you pull a reverse card, if you're going to read a reverse card. And sometimes, like, it depends on the deck as well and the artist, because if you're looking at certain decks, it could be different interpretations. Like, yeah, I just recently purchased the Modern Witch deck, and looking through the little book that it comes with, the descriptions are fairly basic, and I didn't notice any descriptions for reverse cards. Whereas if we're looking at the Rider Smith card, or deck, sorry, they will include reversed cards. And there's actually a book by Rachel Pollock, I believe is the author, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and she includes in-depth descriptions on reverse cards. So again, I think it goes along with the deck that you have and the artist or author of the book or deck.
You mentioned 78 degrees of wisdom. So I'm also going to talk about A.E. Waite's Pictorial Key to the Tarot. You can actually find the legal PDF free, and if you remind me, I think I can link it down below. It's in the Hermetic Library.
So my takeaway from this is that no card is inherently good or bad, that the card that you pull is circumstantial of, one, where you're at currently in your life, and two, what other cards are in the spread influencing that card.
I also totally agree. I see tarot as a way of advice rather than set in stone fortune telling. Also, I agree with what you said, there's no bad cards, it's just advice. So yeah, a bad card can be a way of preventing a bad situation from happening.
All right, so thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We really hope that you enjoyed our take on quote unquote bad tarot cards. And if you'd like to find me on social media, I'm Betty, and I'm known as the Witch from the North on Instagram and YouTube.
And I'm Lancel the Island Witch on Instagram, LancelD at Twitter.che, and follow our page, cause we're gonna start posting really fun stuff. And most likely bloopers of me pretending to be like those weird welcome message things on telephones.
And you can find our page on Instagram at Rosemary by the Bucketful Podcast.